Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the TRBusiness Adapt and Survive Skype video series. Today we are joined by Ethos Farm Business Development Director Christine Martin. Hi Christine.
Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's good to see you, albeit virtually after so long.
I know, it's been ages, hasn't it? We were all hoping to see each other in Singapore. That got cancelled. Then we're looking forward to Cannes. Now that's been cancelled, so goodness knows when it will be, but we are looking forward to that moment.
Indeed, me as well. So I'll just kick things off just by asking you, how has the pandemic affected you personally and professionally?
I think it's come in phases for me. I mean, we saw the writing on the wall with contracts drying up, being put on hold. Then we were told that we had to work from home. That led to being furloughed, and that really took the wind from underneath my sails, because I've always worked. I've worked from the age of 18, and everyone knows how passionate I am about my work, and I work really hard, and I've never managed to get the work-life balance right at all. So suddenly left with nothing to do really shook me, and it took me a couple of days to come to terms with that, really. And I think I could say the same for a lot of people out there, but it wasn't long before I bounced back, but I'll tell you more about that later.
I know I wouldn't expect anything else, Christine, you bouncing back quickly. I just wanted to I mean, there's so much we could talk about here, and I know that it's just such a wide remit to cover, but I'll do the best I can. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the recent European Union Aviation Safety Agency and European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control guidelines recommending in-flight should not resume once air travel begins. In-flight retail should not resume once air travel begins. I mean, I imagine you've heard about this, and you know it caused quite a big stir on this. And I know that the various associations are working on trying to come to an arrangement here.
Absolutely. We got wind of this quite a few weeks ago. It first came out as guidelines. In that same document, it said it was a guideline and it said it was a standard. It can't be both. That's just a contradiction. And I've read it 4 or 5 times, and now they're classing it as a protocol. IATA are saying, you know, they're encouraging airlines to adopt this protocol as well as their own. I mean, the messages out there are so confusing and so biased. I think it's absolutely appalling. We know the airlines that take in-flight retail seriously from a F&B perspective and from a retail perspective. And those revenues could never be more important than now, you know, once we obviously start flying again. So, and if you add to that, you've got ETRC giving their 2 pence worth with saying that they are lobbying to ensure that passengers can continue to carry their duty free that they've bought in the airport on board the aircraft. I just think, where's the fairness? You know, aren't these associations supposed to support the whole of the travel retail ecosystem and not just one? I mean, I watched the webinar with Joseph Bardi, the CEO of Wizz Air, the other day, and there's no way that they're going to conform to that protocol, and Ryanair aren't either. So I think it's very, very short-sighted of them to expect the airlines to just at a stroke of a pen wipe out that revenue. And obviously health and safety comes first, 100%, but there are ways around it. And if you're sitting next to someone shoulder to shoulder, then delivering a service on board, as long as it follows the health and safety, I don't see any problem with that.
It's about finding that balance, as we said, that there's a way to find a common ground, and I'm sure and I hope that they will. The next one is quite a broad question, which again is another one we could probably spend an hour chatting about. Many people for a long period of time have voiced opinions regarding the status of in-flight retail prior to the crisis. Some have said there's no longer a need for the trolley. Others have said like digital concepts will take over from the trolley service. How do you assess the status of the in-flight retail segment pre-crisis? I know that's a broad question, but just in summary form, if you can.
I can answer that in 2 sentences for you, nice and briefly. If I had to give it a colour code, I would give it an amber. Everyone knows that the model was broken before COVID-19, but no one was brave enough to fix it, and now we have to fix it.
Wow, I like that. And again, I could probably ask you about how this should be fixed, what you think should be done, but I will instead touch on that in the next question. How do you think the segment will develop once things settle down post COVID-19? How do you see the landscape for in-flight retail?
Right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, being furloughed really affected me. So I had to do something about it. I had to get myself, back on that carousel and do something positive. So a friend of mine who you know very well, Vimal Ray, and we got together and we created an in-flight retail health check series of webinars to try and provide a safe and open and honest and transparent forum for all of the in-flight retail stakeholders to come together to find a new way of working, so that there is that real danger of in-flight retail falling into that too difficult corner once COVID-19 is under control. And we wanted to find a way forward of how we could share the risk better, and ensure that in-flight retail was more profitable and sustainable for all stakeholders within that supply chain. And currently, next Monday, we will be week 7. And we started off with a tiny little group of 25, and we're now up to 125. I can't say that we've got the answers yet, but it's developing week on week, and it's really exciting.
You talked about bouncing back, Christine. You certainly, with that initiative, is a great way of doing so. And I'm sure there's lots of different opinions being expressed during these webinars. Just asking you some more general questions about the in-flight retail sector. Do you think the sector is in need of some more excitement now, more so than ever? And do you think more risks need to be taken in the future, and why?
Answer to your first one, yes. Yeah, of course we need to excite and delight our customers, and I'm afraid in-flight retail might have lost its way in that before. We've been too lazy. We're giving the customers what we want them to buy rather than what they want to purchase. And we've stuck to what we've done. And if you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get the same results. But these are unprecedented times, and obviously people are not going to take any risks at the moment. They are totally risk adverse. But that's no excuse for trying something to bring new ideas into in-flight retail or into travel retail as a whole. Because quite honestly, what's the worst that can happen? We've had the worst that could happen. So, there is very little risk as long as we're looking after the health and safety piece. Let's just try and do things differently.
Completely agree, and I think that we're going to have to in all elements of the travel retail ecosystem, as well as in flight. Just asking about the trolley and digital. Do you think there's room for both the trolley and digital concepts in in-flight retail moving forward post COVID-19?
An exciting, experiential, robust and comprehensive omni-channel experience if I was owned an airline, that's what I'd be looking to implement. I'd want to spread my reach as far as possible with my pre-order, my home delivery, my in-flight experience. I might even consider promoting the whole of the travel ecosystem when my customers become passengers and book their flight, because we, as an airline, they have the first customer engagement piece, and I think that they have underestimated the power of that. So if, as an airline, when a passenger is booking their flight, I can promote everything, including what I do, it will drive me to be better, but also maybe there could be an influencer's little fee for every time someone clicks through to somewhere else on that customer journey. Who knows? But we really do need to think out of the box.
I personally feel that this has been needed for a long time, but it's not too late. We can do it, and maybe this crisis will kind of push people into taking these risks and taking action moving forward. Now I want to touch on a subject which I know is very close to your heart. It's the role of crew. I just wanted to ask, how would you assess the role of crew in flight, like pre-crisis, and how do you expect it to maybe change from a retail perspective in the post-COVID-19 world?
Well, my biggest concern initially would be that the airlines are going to reduce their crew complement on board. That means the number of crew per flight. And if they sign up to the EASA protocol, that means there's no in-flight retail service on board, then I think the airlines are seriously going to be looking at, because they're going to be looking at ways of cutting costs in every way that they can. I think when, because when the normal service, is resumed and in-flight retail is a part of that, they might consider it as just not worth the hassle. Crew are going to be nervous when they go back to flying. They're going to be pleased that they've got a job and that they haven't been made redundant, because you've heard that all the thousands of crew that are being made redundant around the world, but they're going to be missing their colleagues, and they're going to feel nervous about their own safety and the safety of their family. So it would be amazing to start them off with something really exciting that they can, sink their teeth into, that would give them an opportunity to earn more money, because I think a lot of the airlines are going to reduce the salaries as well. So again, if we can, create something like our, why can't we do activations on board the aircraft as they do on the ground? And I'm sure we'll come on to the category specialists in a moment, but I think there's a big opportunity here is to engage with the crew and say, look, we've got your backs. We've got something exciting for you. You can't, if you buy into it, you can earn more money and you can have a great experience on board too.
And speaking of these various excitement and exciting initiatives, can you tell us a little bit about the initiative that was launched with Ethos Farm earlier this year, which is designed to create a specialist fleet of in-flight sales ambassadors?
Yeah, we actually called them category specialists, but you can call them what you like. I'm not precious about that at all. But last January, we did, you're absolutely right, we hosted an in-flight retail workshop for all stakeholders, and we were putting forward the role of category specialists. And what that would mean very quickly is that crew could apply for that role, whether they're interested in fragrance, beauty, watches, alcohol, gadgets, electronics, whatever it might be. We as Ethos Farm would work with the suppliers to create brand and product videos that the crew could access through our e-library 24/7, making it really, really easy. And it would be in crew speak, so that they could very easily remember those stories and translate that and engage the customers with these wonderful stories, because the brands and brands love their story being told in a professional and enthusiastic way. We had a host of brands and suppliers wanting to participate, which was fantastic. And we also had a load of airlines wanting to get involved as well. And we got as far as designing and pushing out the survey to see, test the water to see whether crew would be interested or not, which was a huge success, much greater participation rates than we ever imagined. But then COVID-19 came, and that's all been put on hold. But I am quietly confident that we'll get that back up and running. Maybe Q4 if we're lucky, but we'll see.
Absolutely fantastic initiative. I remember when I know my colleague covered it, and it's a fantastic initiative, and I'm sure that you'll be able to push on again once this horrible.
Thank you.
Also, over the years, I know in-flight training, that's also been another issue. I keep using the phrase close to your heart, but I think I'm right here in saying that. Do you believe we've fallen behind on this front pre-crisis from the training perspective, ensuring crew members can offer that excitement to passengers? I mean, we all know that safety is their priority, but there's plenty of time during the flight for them to express their passion. Do you think we've fallen even further behind than perhaps what we were pre-crisis?
Yes, in a nutshell. I think it comes down to budgets. and laziness, complacency, greed even. You can put all of those into the mix. There's no money left anymore for things like training. However, and I always like to put a positive spin on these things. When it is done properly, it can be so successful. And if you don't mind, I'll just share a very short case study with you. We've been working with 360 and Virgin Atlantic since 2018, and in November 2019 we launched a one-day sales training program called Think Make Be, which is all in alignment with the Virgin Atlantic values. And we put all their new hires through this one-day sales training program. I mean, we threw the book at it. You know, money was no object. We included virtual reality, videos, team competitions, storytelling, you name it. I mean, they were absolutely exhausted by the end of this day, but on such a high. So then obviously we need to see whether we get a return on investment. And the goal was to see a 30% return on investment. When we did the comparison, so we took 6 courses, 6 cohorts, and we compared their first 6 flights with the flights of crew that hadn't been on the course. And the increase, are you sitting down? Yes, you are, was 500%.
Wow. That's an incredible number. So it just shows, anyone listening to this should definitely 100% take note. It's just a clear message you're putting out there. As I say, there's so many things we could touch on here, but just really, how do you, if you had the power, well you do, how does the role of crew have to change in order to keep those passengers entertained? What if there was something you could, I don't know, make happen in terms of making the crew change? What would it be? You touched on various things here.
I think crew can play as big or a smaller role as the airline wants, but you have to give them the right tools and knowledge and skills to be able to do the job you want them to do. Don't set them up to fail. You know, some crew have never been in a sales environment before. It's unfair to set them sales targets and just say, you know, there's a trolley, there's your point of sale technology, go and do it. And it's like, whoa. And as we know, a lot of people aren't sales orientated. They don't want to be asked questions that they can't answer. It puts them on the back foot. And so that's what I would say. If you want the crew to be your brand ambassadors from an airline perspective and from a product perspective, you have to give them the tools to do the job properly.
And that is, I imagine, is a difference between ensuring, like, let's say 80% of crew are engaged, and like adding that extra 20%. Because do you sometimes feel that you have like a group of crew, but only like perhaps 80% of them are engaged, but more needs to be done to make sure 100% of that crew is engaged? I guess that's what the preparation is key there, I guess, and making sure everybody is on the same page, because you have to work as a unit. It's no point just having 2 or 3, 4, 5 members of the crew engaged when the other half are just like focused on doing their regular like protocols during the flight.
I think, Andrew, it's a really good question, because I think everyone has to go through that equivalent of that new hires course that I spoke to you earlier. And so there is a cross-the-board crew sales culture within the airline. But that 80-20 rule applies, that 20% of your crew are going to bring in 80% of your revenue with regard to in-flight retail. And so why push those square pegs, try and push those square pegs into a round hole, instead of selecting those who are really sales focused and want to do it, and give them the additional sales knowledge and skills and tools to do the job that they want to do, because a happy workforce is a productive workforce. So my approach would be more of, look, who wants to do it? Let's reward them, let's get them trained up, and let the rest of the crew do their bit, you know, and the very valuable other services that go on board. But let's create this group of experts, whether they're brand ambassadors, whether they're category specialists, retail ambassadors, whatever it might be. And they need to have that badge of honour to show to their colleagues that I am an expert in this field, and be mentioned on board on the PA as language speakers are. But we have a fragrance specialist on board if you need any help. You know, let's be proud. Let's stand tall and be proud of what we know and what we can do and what we have to offer.
Fantastic insights, Christine. Your passion is there for all to see, as always. Thanks again for taking the time to chat to us, and I look forward to seeing you in person when this horrible crisis has passed.
Absolutely. I'll buy you a drink, Andrew.
Look forward to it.
Take care. Thanks again. Bye-bye.